everybody. Welcome, Facebook friends. Oh, sometimes, right? Oh, hello. Hello in Peru. Terrific. There we go. Okay. I think we're all up and ready to go. Good times. Hey, friends. My name is Dr. Shannon Coates. And I am coming to you live from a little town that is north of Toronto in Canada, which is why I might sound a little funny to you if I don't know, maybe I sound funny to you, maybe I don't know. That is my Canadian accent coming through. These are I live and work on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Wendat Neo-Wentzio peoples here in this little town north of Toronto. And my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Feel free to use whatever you like. Hey, so what do I do up here? What do I do up here in just north of Toronto in Canada? What do I do? So as you can see from my title, I happen to hold a doctorate in voice pedagogy from the University of Toronto. All of my degrees are from the University of Toronto. Listen to me, so fancy, right? All of my degrees are from the University of Toronto. Anywho, and I develop resources, classes for independent voice teachers primarily. Lots of folks who work in institutions and academia also take advantage of the resources that I offer. And the next thing that's coming up is Neurodiversity Affirming Voice Ped 101. This is a series of 4 classes plus a pre-recorded panel. The classes they start next week. So Wednesday the 27th, they all happen on Wednesdays at, I think it's noon Eastern time. I should recheck that because I can't remember. Anyway, and then 4, 11, and 18 of October, and then the pre-recorded panel. So those classes are Neurodiversity 101, which is a description or a discussion around the neurodiversity movement, how language and perception has changed, how the depathologization, if you will, of neurotypes and different neuro ways of being in the world. That's on the 27th, 2-hour class plus a live Q&A, so good times there. And then the 4th of October is ADHD in the Voice Studio, where we're breaking down common traits, characteristics of ADHD. We're really explaining some things about ADHD. There's some sort of leftover ideas that ADHD is primarily boys or folks we perceive to be boys and who we are socializing as boys, and it happens to boys primarily, and it's all about they're bouncing off the walls, right? So that has changed. We're recognizing ADHD in a lot of different ways now. And then, so it's talking about the characteristics of ADHD, likely some things you didn't know unless you, have been doing some of this research yourself. And then ways of working with ADHD folks in the voice studio. Autism, same thing. That is on the 11th of October. Again, 2-hour class, half-hour Q&A, talking about primary autistic traits and what that might look like in the voice studio. Again, we're debunking a few myths. Asperger's is no longer a diagnosis, for example. We're getting through some of those myths, as well as talking about working with autistic folks in the voice studio. The 18th is Building Inclusive Voice Studios. So again, 2-hour class, half-hour live Q&A. Building inclusive voice studios through a neurodiversity affirming lens. So this is where we talk about all of the intersections between neurodivergent folks and lots of other communities. So, for example, there's a large intersection between folks who are neurodivergent and who also have a chronic illness. That's a large intersection. There's some intersections there with misogyny and how we have diagnosed neurodivergences in the past based on basically white boys, especially for ADHD, and white middle class and upper boys with ADHD versus, so there's some intersections with misogyny, there's intersections with racism. So for example, my son who is autistic, for example, is far more likely to get my white son who is autistic and who also is middle class-ish is far more likely to get an autism diagnosis than someone who is not those things. So folks who are not those things are far more likely to get a behavioral issue diagnosis or a low IQ diagnosis or something along those lines, right? So there's intersections with racism. There's intersections with gender as well. There are just all of these intersections with neurodiversity and so many other communities. And so this in this class, again, 2 hours plus a Q&A, we talk about those intersections and also how we build inclusive voice spaces actually through a neurodiversity affirming lens means that we are also building inclusive voice spaces for lots and lots of other people. So that's a way to just kind of reconsider lots of practical information in that class as well about changing policies, setting up physical spaces, putting in how we work with questionnaires, intake forms, etc. So, and then the final is a panel that I recorded with Elizabeth Berry last. I'm just writing down the things that I need to tag here. That I recorded with Elizabeth Berry last year, and it is called Teaching While Neurodivergent. So Elizabeth is a medically diagnosed autistic and ADHD person, and I am a self-diagnosed ADHD person. So between the two of us, we talk about the meaning of the diagnosis to us, how that changed things, looking back on our lives in terms of owning a business and being a voice teacher, what some of the mechanisms we sort of intuitively put in place before we knew that there was some neurodivergence going on there, and then how we are now leaning into running businesses and being voice teachers now that we have those that information. So all of those coming up starting next week. The classes are $550, and you are welcome to pay that in 2 installments. So you can pay the first installment at registration and the second installment a month later. So there you go. See my website for more info. Okay. Oh, and also I am currently registering for the VoicePed degree, which starts on November 6th. So that's an 8-month course. Again, you can get more information on my website. Okay, let's get into it. That was a lot. Here we go. This live office hours today is a little bit of a reflection and some thoughts around expertise and the idea of expertise. And this is a reflection. These are sort of, I have some notes. So that's new. You're welcome. I have some notes. They're random now, pretty random notes. Just to kind of keep me on track as much as possible. And to kind of work through some of the ideas. So some of the concepts I want to just kind of talk about and kind of externally process, if you will. Some of those concepts we're going to kind of get to a little bit today. Talking about expertise. We're talking about the intersection with expertise and gatekeeping. We're talking about the intersection with expertise and student-led versus teacher-led teaching, teacher-centered versus student-led teaching in the voice studio. And we're sort of talking about the intersection with generalist and specialist teaching today as well. So that's a lot. It's all sort of amorphous. I don't have like, you know what you're supposed to do in these kinds of, live things is you're supposed to have like 3 main points or 5 reasons of X, Y, Z. And here's 3 things to do for blah, blah, blah. Like you're supposed to do that, right? Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I follow that rule. Today, we're not following that rule. Today, you're going to come on a joyful little ride with me romping through my ADHD brain as we kind of figure out some of these things. We'll talk about some of these things. Here we go. So my thought in terms of expertise is this idea, and this I'd like to talk first of all about this intersection with expertise and generalist versus specialist in the voice studio. So let me talk first of all about what I consider, how I'm defining these terms in terms of voice teachers. A generalist voice teacher to me is a more typical independent voice studio where the voice teacher is working with a very broad range of singers who have very diverse singing goals and reasons for taking voice lessons, and who are at many different stages of their coordination journey. So there are lots of different stages present in a typical generalist independent voice studio. So what that looks like, which is a studio that I very proudly, and I consider myself to be a generalist, in one of my voice studios, in one of my iterations, I taught in a generalist and a specialist studio simultaneously. So I had those going simultaneously. In the generalist voice studio, we are working with almost anyone who kind of walks through the door. And the majority of us who start teaching and have an independent voice studio tend to start out especially as generalists, which is absolutely terrific, and maybe more of us should not do that, but we do. We tend to start out with the sort of whoever comes into the voice studio, that's who I'm going to work with, and which is wonderful. And that kind of voice teacher often is not considered an expert, right? So often we had a little bit of discussion about this as well in the Speakeasy Cooperative with a post earlier as well, a little while ago, or maybe it was just yesterday, I don't know, time. What is time? Who knows? About this concept of like, when people ask me what I do for a living, or when I'm in a room with lots of other people who are doing various different things for a career, if I say, oh, I have an in-home voice studio, or I teach voice lessons, or I teach music lessons, often that is not considered to be an expert, right? You're not considered to have lots of expertise. And obviously there's a little bit about how we frame that. Obviously there's a little bit about how we actually say it, right? I know lots of folks who say, I own my own business and I am a voice coach, or I am, like a music, I own my own studio business where we, teach voice, whatever. Lots of folks have a little bit different way of putting it, but like I said, even then, especially if your studio is in-home, woo, there can be real assumptions there about your level of expertise, right? And also, folks who work explicitly with children and or who work with young singers, also this idea of your level of expertise can be challenged, right? So there's lots of like sort of there's lots of assumptions that come along with how we view an in-home voice teacher and or a generalist, if you will. And so as I was thinking about this, I've been thinking I have been intentionally using generalist for quite a while now, at least 8 months. Again, time. What is time? Who knows? It feels like I've been using it for a while, intentionally, to rehabilitate the term, if you will, a little bit, to start to communicate that a generalist voice teacher requires an incredibly broad knowledge base. Because I, as a generalist, am welcoming into my voice studio many, 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 many different kinds of singers, many, as I said, singers who are at many different areas of their learning journey, etc., right? So the amount of information that I need is actually very, very, very broad. It's a lot. I also need I need to be an expert level teacher because I am meeting the needs I'm working with and teaching such a broad amount of people with varied goals, etc., and all of like the broad amount of knowledge plus the expertise that I need to meet the needs of the singers of this wide range of singers who come into the studio. That is expertise. It is expertise, 100%. So generalists often get this, like I said, we kind of get this, perception that we're not maybe as good, we're not as expert as, say, someone who is teaching in an academic studio or someone who is an independent voice teacher but who specializes. So if we've got someone who is a specialist independent voice teacher who teaches, say, only, high-level music theater singers, that's amazing. You're still an independent voice teacher, but you're actually a specialist, right? So the information that you have, and you're an expert, of course, and the information that you have, though, is actually not very broad because you're working with, it may be deep for sure, but you're working with a population that is coming in at a similar level of coordination with very similar goals and similar expectations. So we have this sort of like, the information that I have in terms of teaching and pedagogy, and also the information that I have in terms of tonal outcomes, how to find those tonal outcomes and what are appropriate tonal outcomes, etc. Those things are actually quite narrow in terms of the expertise, right? It's not broad. Same with if you are working exclusively with, Western classical singers in your voice studio, or you're working exclusively with, I don't know. I still think of folks who work exclusively with children as generalists. Why? Because when we bring children into the voice studio, they are necessarily coming in with very disparate goals, right? And different levels of learning. And they perhaps haven't been in our academic system very long. And so they're not necessarily learning in the same way, right? They're not necessarily set up to learn in a sort of similar way. That's because they've been funneled through an academic system or a classroom. Okay. So we see how that generalist, specialist, how that kind of draws the line there. And just a super sidebar here, because why not? It's my live office hours. Super sidebar here. Some folks might say, well, if I'm a generalist and I'm accepting anybody who comes into the voice studio, how then do I have an ideal client? So how then do I find an ideal student, the students who I work best with and who will work best with me? How then do I find those clients? Well, then you find the through line of all of the people who are coming to the voice studio. What is their through line? Are they finding joy in the singing? Are they coming to you for, I don't know. You can find the through line, right? Okay. And then you can still find your ideal client while having this working with this broad range of singers. Okay. Those are my thoughts on sort of like expertise and also in terms of generalist / specialist voice teacher types. Okay. When we talk about expertise in terms of I am the teacher in the room and I am the expert in the room in terms of like you're paying me for this for the information that I have, whether it be broad or whether it be narrow but deep, right? So whether it be broad but a little bit more shallow or narrow but deep, right? I am the expert in the room because you're coming to me for whatever the information is that I have and or whatever the pedagogical information is that I have, right? I can, not only do I have the information, but hopefully I can disperse it. So what happens when we have a teacher-centered expert versus a student-centered expert in the voice studio? I'm talking pretty specifically about voice and coaching and voice spaces. When I have a student-centered expert, so voice teacher, student-centered voice teacher, coach, etc., music director, etc., in the room. You know what, let me go back to the analogy that I've been using all week, which is, I'm going to just see how far I can stretch this bad boy out. Okay, let's see if we can stretch this analogy out. So the analogy that I've been using is that I am an expert because I have gathered many maps. I have many maps of how to get to specific vocal goals, tonal outcomes, coordinations, etc., right? So I have many maps. I've gathered all of these maps. So many maps. And that is part of what makes me an expert, is that I have all of these maps. What makes me an expert teacher is that I am not giving you the map that I think best suits you. I'm not just saying to you, okay, you want to do this? Oh, well, first of all, I'm not telling you where you want to go. That's the first thing, right? So I know how to get to lots and lots of places. And I've got lots of ways, I've got lots of maps to get me to like the same place. I've got lots of ways to get me to Toronto if I want to, or I've got lots of maps that'll get me to like all of these other places, right? So hopefully this analogy is going to hold out. Let's see how far I can take it. I've got these maps. When a singer comes into the studio and I assume their destination, their point of destination, where they want to go, and then I pull out the map that I think is going to work best for them, and that's what we do in voice lessons. That is teacher-centered. I am now a teacher-centered expert. I'm still an expert, yep, but I am not a great pedagogue. I'm not teaching effectively. I'm not teaching as effectively as I could be. Because, first of all, I decided what your tonal goals are. I decided what you need to do, what you need to change, how you need to change it, etc. And I pulled out the map that I thought was best for you. So what does that look like? That looks like, oh, you want to be a classical singer? Okay, that's great. I know all of the things that you need to do to be a classical singer. So we're going to start with this exercise. And now you need to find more clarity. And now you need to balance out that resonator. And now you need to get through these are all the things that you have to do. Now you have to find the release that gives you vibratory tone, access to vibration or vibrato. Now we need to work on your languages. And now we need to do all blah, 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 blah. Oh, you want to be a rock pop singer? Great. You want to learn XYZ thing? Okay, now we need to figure out how to do this mix belt. We need to do this. And here are all of the exercises that you're going to use to get those to get those tonal outcomes. See? You might have told me what you want to do or what your tonal outcomes are or what your goals are. And then I said, I know what you need. Here's this map. We're going to do all the exercises on this map. I might pull out a different map. I might, find a different thing. Like I might, teach the student in front of me, be student-led in that way where I'm like, oh, this map isn't working. I'm going to pull out another map. I might be doing that. If I go all the way with that, all the way over, and I start to say, hey, only certain people can have this map, and only certain people can have that map, and only certain people can sing this way, and only certain people can sing that way, I become a gatekeeper. I become an expert who is a gatekeeper, right? I become an expert who is a gatekeeper when I say that best way to teach people, this is me, right, as an expert in pedagogy, when I say, here are the rules to how you should be teaching people. Oh, what? And you're not a good teacher, you're a good teacher. I've decided that you should be doing it this way or you should be doing this way. I become an expert. Expert goes real dark in our academic institutions, for example, which is part of that's part of what happens in academic institutions. We have assessments that are set out by the teacher about what you need, the information that you need in order to be a good teacher in our pedagogy programs. And then I give you a grading rubric, and then you check off all of the things on that grading rubric when you do your next teaching exam for me, and I help you to, maybe I support you or tell you how to, fulfill this grading rubric, this square in the grading rubric a little bit better. That's teacher-centered, still. It still is. Still is. That's expert gone dark. It's a little gatekeepy. You only get the pass in the course, you only get your degree if you are teaching in the way that I, the teacher, who has the expertise, that I, the teacher, think you should be. So see how this is? I have all the maps, and I've decided that this map is the best map. And so now you have to follow that map, or I won't give you a good grade. This is, of course, quite simplified. Happens on juries, happens, right? And we take that with us into the Independent Voice Studio. We take that with us as experts into the Independent Voice Studio, where we say, okay, in order for you to be a XYZ singer, which you say you want to be, you have to do these things. Simplified but accurate, thank you. Yeah. Simplified, there's definitely more to it, but hopefully I'm not lying. So I say you need to do these things, and I give you the map, and we follow the map. What happens when I am intentional about being student-led while remaining the expert? So this isn't about, there are conversations all over the place, and like, y'all, I have read so many books, articles, things, blog posts, etc., from experts in pedagogy, experts in neuroscience, experts, or let me just say like so-called experts maybe, or whatever, I don't know, experts in so many different areas related to voice and teaching, who are butthurt because people aren't doing it the way that they say they should be doing it, that the expert says they should be doing it, and when no one is listening to the expert, and there's a decline in listening to experts, and there's a decline in recognizing expertise, and now everybody has a platform, and so there's a decline in like actual experts in the world because anybody can say anything on a platform. If you are butthurt, because if you're wazzy, if you're wah, because everybody has a platform and no one's listening to the real experts anymore, no one believes the real experts. Now, there's some subtlety here as well, right? I am being but I'm talking about this very much in terms of like voice ped. Very much in terms of voice ped. But if you're wazzy, if you are a voice teacher, or you are a pedagogy expert, or you are, etc., who is wazzy, because everyone has a platform and anyone can listen, and so then, and everyone should be listening to the experts, may I suggest that the experts need to stop telling everyone that they have to listen to the experts and actually present options. So here's what happens when I, as an expert, take all of those. Yes, it does apply. It applies to many fields. But here's what happens when I, as an expert, take my expertise, recognize that I am an expert in this thing, which I am. I personally am. I'm an expert in this thing. And offer the options. So in pedagogy, we'll talk about pedagogy in a minute, but in the voice studio, what do? First of all, I consult with the singer I'm working with about what their actual goals are. And that is an ongoing consultation. That is an ongoing, especially if you are in all studios, but especially if you are in an independent voice studio where you are a generalist. That is an ongoing consultation in terms of, is this still the sound you want to make? Is this still your tonal goals outcome? Is this still what you want to learn? Is this still where you want to go? That's an ongoing conversation. And then we bring out 4 or 5 maps. I've got access to like 40 of them, 400, I don't know, I've got access to 1 million maps. I bring out 4 or 5 maps. And rather than saying, this is the one you need to do, I say, okay, there are lots of ways to get there. Does this seem like the way that you would like to go? Is this the way you would like to go? Is this the way you would like to go? Here are the pros and cons of doing it this way, doing it this way, doing it this way. That's part of my expertise. Part of my expertise is explaining the pros and cons of each. Hi, Lindsay. Part of the expertise is explaining the pros and cons of each path or each choice. It's not, my expertise does not give me the right to give you a moral imperative around your choices or to give you the choice, right? To tell you what to do. My expertise is not here for me to tell you what to do. My expertise is not here. I do not have the expertise to give you a moral imperative around which choice is right and which choice is wrong. My expertise is here to serve you by giving you the options and explaining the cost benefit. Then I get to support you in your choices. Then we move forward in your choices. And like I said, that is a continual, ongoing conversation where I say, is this map still serving you? Would you like to try something from this map? Here are the pros and cons. Is this map still serving you? What about this map? Would you like to try this map? Here are the pros and cons of moving from this to this. You get to make these choices. I'm here to support you in your choices. Yes, yes. Here are the pros and cons. I take away, hey Amanda, I take away the moral imperative around which choice is the best choice and which choice is not a good choice. And I take away the judgment and I allow people to learn. That's what supporting learning looks like. That's what being an expert in the voice studio or voice space is. Yes. Oh, thank you. My expertise is not here to tell you what to do. Literally write that down. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, yes. So that's what being an expert and not being a gatekeeper or not going dark, being an expert and still student-led that's how that looks. That's what that looks like in the voice studio. As a pedagogy teacher, voice teacher person, where I am working with voice teachers to support voice teachers' journeys of discovering themselves as experts who are also student-led, where I am supporting voice teachers as we sort of we recognize, first of all, I have to recognize it, right? So I'm supporting voice teachers as first we recognize and then we release these ideas that are inherent and that come to us through our academic system and that come to us from other experts, where we release these ideas that because someone is coming to me for and paying me for my expertise, the way that I deliver is by telling them what to do. That's what they're paying me for, right? So we have this it's insidious, it's in us, it is part of our culture, it's part of the way we were educated, it is insidious. And so my job, what I do in, for example, the VoicePed Undegree, for example, is we work very intentionally to recognize when that is showing up in our teaching, and also then to replace it. So, because I've got a million maps about how to teach. I've got a million maps. So in the VoicePed Undegree, we come in that first month and we talk about the kind of teacher I want to be. What is the kind of teacher I want to be? And then we talk about what does that look like in the voice studio? How does that change the way that I'm teaching? How am I already on that track and how am I getting off that track? Where am I getting off that track? And we get more and more and more specific about what it looks like when I am on the trajectory toward being the teacher I want to be. So I'm not in the first month of the VPUD, or when we work together. I do VoicePed VIP days where we work together and we do a similar process, but it's super super intense. Woo! Where I'm not all up in there saying, here's what you need to do to be a good voice teacher, and here are the things that you're already doing really well, and here are the things that you're not doing well. I'm not there saying that. I am saying, oh, remember when you told me? First of all, I'm offering 1,000 maps. Here are all the maps. Oh, you want to be that kind of voice teacher? Amazing. I've got 1,000 maps. Let's figure out which one we want to choose. I am in there saying, remember when you told me that you wanted to do these things, that this is what you wanted to do? Talk to me about how that phrasing, about how that statement, about how that, whatever it is that you did just now, talk to me about how that can be changed in order to move onto that map. Because that's the map you chose. Remember, that's the thing you chose. Talk to me about how we can change that so that you're on to the other map. And now talk to me about how, and lots of times folks can't, right? So they're like, I don't know how to change that thing. And I'm like, that's great, because I've got 1,000 maps. Here we go. Try this map. Right? That's great. No problem. You don't know yet? That's fine. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm in the room. I'm not in the room to tell you what to do, or what you know. I'm in the room to be like, ooh, let's notice this thing, because you said this thing, and so this isn't lining up yet. I bet it can line up better. How? And eventually, by the time we get to like 6 months in, 5 months in, it's an 8-month program. By the time we get to like 4, 5, 6 months in, people are changing, the teachers are changing it because they're starting to recognize for themselves, right? So they're starting to change those maps for themselves because now they have all the maps too. So starting to change it for themselves. And then what that means is by the time I get to the end of the VPUD or some kind of program like that where you're working with me or someone like me, I don't think there's anyone like me. Anyway, I don't think there's any program out there like the VPUD. I'm pretty sure there isn't. But by the time you get to the sort of midway or 3/4 of the way through, what are we talking about then? We're talking about now, you are articulating to me before we even get into the room, before we get into the teaching, you are articulating to me, my intention is to do X, Y, Z, and these are the ways that I have to get there, and these are my backups, and here's how I'm going to change it when I recognize it. And then by the time we get to the end, and I'm just there like saying, yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. And also, ooh, did you think about this map? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that map. Or yeah, I totally thought about that map, but I didn't think it was the right one for this time. I'm like, yes, then amazing. By the time we get to the end of the program, what happens? What do you have as a voice teacher? You, first of all, have a lot more maps, a lot more ways to access those maps, and a very specific idea in your mind, or sorry, a very tangible, thank you, tangible, thank you, I just thanked myself for thinking of something, a very tangible way of assessing whether or not I am still using a map that works. You also have a tangible way of assessing whether or not I am, you also have tangible ways of assessing whether or not I am slipping into teacher-centered learning, where I'm starting to just tell people what to do, hand out the maps, right? So I also know when I'm starting to slip into that, and I have the tools to move back over onto that trajectory. Okay, this has been brought to you. I feel like that's kind of where I am. I feel like that's all that needs to be said. This live office hours has been brought to you by external processing with my brain, through some ideas of expertise, gatekeeping, what it means to be an expert in the room while still doing student-led learning, and also generalist versus specialist, and the conceptuality, the concepts, the ideas we have around those two terms and those two kinds of teachers and what that means in terms of expertise. This has been brought to you by all of those things. Let me say one other thing about the VPED, the VoicePed Undegree. I was meeting with someone the other day, and we were talking about this. We were talking about the built-in accountability of the VoicePed Undegree, because some folks are able to take this information and intentionally sort of move forward with it and intentionally start to apply and intentionally sort of like have this growth plan. I am not that kind of person. I need some built-in accountability. And so that is also part of the VPED, is this built-in accountability where we didn't do it the way I wanted, we didn't do it this way last year. I wish we had, but we didn't. So now we're doing it this way this year because change. For the better. Got a different map. Where we are meeting every month to further clarify. Should I keep going with the map analogy? To further clarify our maps and the choices we have. And also to continue to clarify the ways that we are assessing whether we're using the right map or not. Or whether it's time to like maybe amalgamate some maps or etc. Right? So we're using that time. I think the analogy might have gone far enough. But how we're using those maps. So we have this built-in accountability where we are continuing to talk about and do the thing, which I love. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to say one more thing. Often inherent in books, and I'll talk specifically about books, although there are some articles and posts and different kinds of things out there as well. Inherent in some books from experts, so pedagogy books, for example, books about how we learn, books about voice anatomy and pedagogy, etc. there is, experts often present the information as if one way of doing things is bad and one way is good. So often in those books, things get real prescriptive real fast. And we would all be better served if books by experts on specific topics like this were written presenting options and then presenting pros and cons. Oh, hey, Liz Jackson Hearns, no worries. You know me, you came in just for the one last thing. So we would be better served if folks who are experts and have expertise disseminated their expertise in a voice that offers the options and allows you to make the choice, allows you to make an informed choice. So when I, as an expert, write a book, write a post, write a journal, write a, I don't know, do a thing as an expert, when I do a thing where I say, research shows X, Y, Z, and therefore you should only do X, Y, Z. Okay, that seems like facts, right? How would I actually present the facts as an expert to make it, to allow for folks to make their own choices? I am not talking about, I'm very much talking about voice pedagogy right now and pedagogy and teaching, right? Yes, 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 yes. Differentiation, I know. Differentiation is a whole other thing. There are some positives about that, but there are also some real issues with it, right, in the classroom. So I am talking about pedagogy, education. I'm talking about things where if something is explained without the moral imperative, I get to make choices, right? So where experts are not like butthurt and holding on to the information for themselves and saying like, no, this is the only map that's good for you. Research shows. It's, how would we present that information if we were not trying to hold on to our expertise and we're not trying to hold on to our role as an expert and we're, not doing that? How would we present it? The skill is critical thinking, yes. How would we present it? We would say, hey, research shows X, Y, Z. When you do this thing, there's, lots of research that shows this thing is going to be the result. And these are the pros and these are the cons. You're going to get this result. You may get this result. What happens now? Now, I get to make an informed decision because I have the information I need to make a decision about whether or not I want to do this thing or that thing. This is the same thing in the voice studio. And sometimes when we read I'm looking over here because I've got a whole bunch of voice ped texts over here on my desk, so whole bunch of them. I'm not naming any. Although I have not read, oh gosh, yes, this comment. But if I teach them how to teach themselves, I'm going to be out of a job. Oh, right? If I give them the information, yes. Just having an amazing conversation with a biology researcher about the caveats and pitfalls of research and an evidence-based approach. Consider the source, think critically. Exactly. This is I'm trying not to name any names, but let me just say this. I have yet to read a a text that is purported to be a voice pedagogy text that is not highly prescriptive, where the expert in that text is writing from the point of view that I have this information and this is the only way that anyone should function. Here's the map. Here's the only map. No, no. In the voice studio, what do? We say, hey, here's the pro and con. Here's the information you need to make a good choice for yourself. Or to just make a choice for yourself. Good is that doesn't need to be a good choice. Just needs to be a choice, right? You get the agency to make a choice. And I'm here to offer you all the maps and tell you which one and support you as you figure out which one works best for you. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to tell you which map works best for you. It is the same with medicine and diagnosis. Yeah, that's a very, oh gosh, yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, should I get a little bit sassy just at the end? Let me get a little sassy at the end in terms of medicine and diagnosis. There are folks who are mad because people are self-diagnosing ADHD and autism from TikToks. They're mad. They're mad. They're all up in their huff because people are self-diagnosing, and sometimes they're wrong. And that's causing harm because now there are people who think they have ADHD and they're blaming their behaviors on ADHD, and now it's causing harm to them, and they're not getting what they should be getting because they should be going to someone else. 100%, right? ACCMA is saying, as an ADHD individual, autistic ADHD, who was not diagnosed because I mask well enough, therefore I'm not. I know, right? They're wrong. They're getting all of this, and also half of the things that TikTokers say is an ADHD trait isn't an ADHD trait. Or half the things that TikTokers say is an autism trait isn't an autism trait. And people are wrong. Dude, are you listening to yourself? That's right. Self-diagnosis. Oh, you're not being sarcastic there. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, self-diagnosis is not a wrong option. It does not cause damage. This is what I'm saying. It is not. It is not a wrong option. Self-diagnosis is absolutely valid. There are. This is what I'm saying. When experts decide what the right map is for you, because I have the expertise, that's gatekeeping. That is harmful. So again, there's a lot that goes into self-diagnosis and why it's valid, and that is a whole other conversation. Even yes, when we gatekeep, we hurt more. Even when people are self-diagnosing wrong, right? Even if someone self-diagnoses as autistic and they aren't. All the big quotes there. Even if someone is making a choice that you think is a bad choice or a wrong choice, so what? There's a lot in there, right? Why are you hurt about that? Why? It's not causing harm. All right, that was just a little class at the end because some experts are mad that people are self-diagnosing. Yeah, some experts. What does it look like? Let me do one more thing. What does it look like for an expert to not be mad at self-diagnosis, right? Like, what does that look like? That looks like an expert who looks at TikTok videos or who gauges TikTok videos and or, online communities and says, a lot of these things are not in the medical diagnosis for ADHD. Some of these things are not in the medical diagnosis for Yes. Self-diagnosis pedagogy is amazing. Let the students have a voice. Let them explore. Exactly. So a lot of these things that people are talking about in terms of autism traits are not in the manual. That's interesting. I think maybe I should talk to some ADHD and autism people and see whether maybe it's possible that this is something that is actually a lived experience. And also, if you, as an expert, if you truly feel that people are being harmed by self-diagnosis, that there is something wrong with self-diagnosis, work on changing the system that means that people have to do self-diagnosis. Work on changing that system. Don't be mad at people who are doing self-diagnosis. Mad at the system. Change the system so that people can get the diagnoses they want or need if they want to. Yeah? Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop now. That's a lot. And also, weirdly, I went off topic. I know it's weird. Yes, the DSM is totally outdated. I know, exactly, right? Like, it's just... Don't be mad at the people. Also, let's come back to pedagogy. Don't be mad at the people who come into your studio and who are like, I think I need to do X, Y, Z. I have a really, like, yes. Thank you. It's fine. It's fine. Liz Jackson Hearns over here on Facebook also encouraged me to like be a little sassy at the end there, so it's fine. You're working in tandem. I wanted to do it anyway, so you know, I didn't really need that much encouragement, you know. DSM in pedagogy. Don't be mad that people aren't listening to you. Don't be mad that people might be like, if your butt hurt because someone isn't doing what you're telling them to do in the voice studio. Someone is like not respecting your expertise. Someone is just like, a singer you're working with is just like, they just won't try. They just won't do what I'm telling them to do. Examine that. Examine that. Right. Yes, yeah, Janelle, yes. I don't feel like you're off topic at all. It's the same conversation. It is a very similar conversation for sure. Experts in any field claiming they know more than the individual going through something or trying to reach a goal is doing it for themselves, not the student or client. Yeah, I mean, this does get it gets a little challenging. Again, it gets a little challenging. There is some nuance to this conversation in terms of lots of people feeling that like they're an expert in something because they've Googled it, you know, and or people deciding that someone isn't an expert. Like there's a lot of nuance to this conversation. So I am trying to keep it into the voice ped conversation, right? I mean, I'm trying to keep it there. But you know, we still have experts saying that belting is unhealthy. We still have experts, you know, like, so yeah. If you truly believe that belting is unhealthy, in order to not be a gatekeeper around that information, what are you going to do? You're going to offer it to your students and say, hey, if you, there's lots of things about belting that may lead to these outcomes, which, by the way, I don't know, but if you truly believe that belting is unhealthy, if you truly believe that, there are lots of things about belting that may lead to these kind of tonal outcomes, especially as we're figuring it out. And so I'm going to offer some other ways to do this, and you get to decide. And if you decide that you want to do belting in a way that I think is unhealthy, which If you decide that you want to do belting in that way, I will support your decision and we will figure out how to make it as healthy as possible. Don't get me wrong, I hate that language, but anyway. I used to get really upset and worried about my DIY voice until I learned about the social historical context in which DIY voice came about. It was misplaced compassion, but more expertise makes it easier to be genuinely compassionate. 100%. More expertise, so long as we are conscious of the fact that the reason I'm an expert is because I have a lot of maps. I'm an expert because I have a lot of maps. If I decide that you only get to have this map, I'm an expert because I have a lot of maps. I'm an expert teacher because I offer all of the maps and I give information about them so the singers I'm working with can make choices for themselves. Right? I can be an expert in a subject. I'm not an expert teacher if I decide that you only get to have one map. This is the only map for you. If I decide which map works best for you, that's not an expert teacher. That's a gatekeeper. And that is teacher-led, not student-led. You can be a student-led expert, 100%, in the classroom. As long as you keep your job description, as long as you know your job description. Your job description is not to hand out a map. Your job description is to gather the maps and then show them and give the information so the student can decide which map works best for them. And then to support that decision. Okay. I think I've said it enough now. Ready? Yeah. We've gone on long enough. Okay. Here we go. See you later. Have a great weekend, friends. Woo! Keep in mind, like I said, registration for neurodiversity, what's it called? Neurodiversity Affirming VoicePed 101 is open. First class starts on Wednesday. Talk to you later. Boop. I'm gonna get out of Instagram first, okay? Here we go. Instagram ending. See you later, Facebook friends.